And hello again, everybody. Welcome to episode 12 of VIBELAND Sports, a media production of VIBELAND Media. I'm Todd Miller, the cleanup hitter in a punchless offensive lineup.
I'm Kelby Peterson.
And I'm Casady Fletcher.
Welcome to episode 12. Got a great show for you today. We're going to talk to last year's number 3 overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft. He belongs to the Philadelphia Phillies. Former Wichita State shocker Alec Bohm will join us. Lots to get to today, and guys, let's get right to it. First of all, we start right here in Oklahoma City, as we do so often, with PG-13 speaking out against the officiating after the Thunder's latest loss Saturday night in Los Angeles. You know, I put credibility in what PG-13 says because there's a lot of crying and whining in the NBA, but Paul George isn't one of those guys, and usually when he says something, he pretty much is to the point, and he was, but drew a $25,000 fine. Do you agree that he should have been fined for his outbursts?
I do not. I don't think that when a player speaks out against an organization or against anything about the league, anything they say, they should not be fined. I think that's ridiculous. I think that all players should be allowed to speak their mind. And now if that costs them other ways down the road, then fine, whatever. But look, I know that they don't want their officials just getting slammed every single night after a loss, and that's why they put those fines out there. But I guess my point is maybe get better officiating and it won't be an issue. So I think the issue is with the league, not with the players in this situation.
I agree. I think the issue is with the league, and I don't think that he should have been fined. But, I mean, by the rules of the law in the NBA, we all knew he was going to be fined.
And
Paul
he knew
George
he was
himself
gonna be fined.
knew
Yeah,
he was
said
gonna,
it. Yeah.
He said it in, I'm going to probably pay money for this. But, I mean, at that point, it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to pay my money, so I might as well speak my mind. It's unfortunate that players get fined for speaking their mind and pointing out when something is going wrong. I mean, to bring it to the NBA's attention is one thing, but to bring it to the media and, you know, the fan and to Twitter's attention, I think that's another thing. I think that he had a mission when he was speaking, that he's trying to bring this to light. He goes, look, I'm not trying to be a whiner or a complainer. I'm at my job every day. There's a part of it that's, I feel like it's being made more difficult and unnecessarily so, and different than other teams. The Thunder played different. They're rim attackers. Russell Westbrook should be the most fouled player in the NBA every year. And I'm not saying that as a homer. I'm saying that as a fact. The guy, the way he plays, it's hard to guard him without fouling him. PG the same way. He's in your pocket. He's up close. I mean, I think they deserve more fouls, you know, as opposed to guys like James Harden, who I think plays a game. I mean, Russ and PG try to draw fouls, don't get me wrong, but they don't play it. It's not a part of their game like it is Harden. Harden's one of his skill sets is that he can make contact and get to the free throw line when the offense isn't working. He can play ticky-tacky games and get somebody to touch him wrong, and he's shooting on the line. So,
well, I have several points to this. First of all, Kelby brought this up before we sat down tonight for our podcast. And he said, as Thunder fans, we cry about why that team doesn't get to the foul line. Maybe they don't want to be at the foul line, or we shouldn't want them to be at the free throw line because they have been horrible this entire season. I also agree with what you're saying, Casady. Get better officiating, because I think among the major sports, the NBA is clearly the worst officiated league among all four. If you had nightly blown calls in the NFL that you have in the NBA, there would be such an outcry. We had one small sample size of that, and that was the pass interference that was but wasn't called in New Orleans that ultimately led to the Rams getting to the Super Bowl. The other thing is, I think the Thunder have hurt themselves a little bit with the officiating. I think since the inception of this franchise, and especially after about year 3 when they really started to become a factor in the West, there's been a lot of whining and a lot of crying, and Westbrook has led the way. So I ask you guys, do you feel like that is finally just caught up with them, that the officials now do not want to give Oklahoma City a benefit of the doubt? And I'm not being a homer about that, because I'm here to tell you, I think the Thunder do whine and cry too much about officiating.
I would agree with that. There's too many times that I see there's contact. Yes, everyone knows there's contact, but then they talk to the official the entire way down the court rather than getting back on defense and trying to defend or stopping a fast break or something, now they're over there whining to the official. That's not doing anything to help in the moment. That's probably not going to help you get the next call, because now that official is just going to be annoyed with you. And I think, look, these officials are humans. You annoy them enough, they may not call a foul just out of spite because you've been the little pest in their ear for the last decade, like you're saying, Todd, that the Thunder have maybe cried wolf a bit too much, and that could be part of the reason. But I've always said that Russell Westbrook is one of the least superstar drawing calls for anyone else I've ever seen in my career.
Yeah, out of all the superstars, Russ, I feel like he doesn't get the superstar calls. You know, I don't think I watched a lot of Russell Westbrook, and I've thought, man, there should have been a call there, a lot more than I've thought. Man, he might have got a superstar call there. Like, very rarely do you see Russell Westbrook like get away with something. You know, I mean, like you guys said, it's officiated a little bit differently for us. And think about this, guys. If you're back to the complaining, if you have a friend that comes over and you want to show them, hey, this is the Thunder, sit down and watch this game and listen to this broadcast team. Not just the players on the court, but if you listen to the coverage, oh my gosh, like Michael Cage is just killing the Thunder. I mean, not killing killing the officials. Sometimes it's just like when they show it in slow motion, I'm like, hey, that was a blatant foul, and I'm like, you saw it with your eyes. You're still trying to tell me that was a bad call. Like, you saw him slap his wrist. That was a foul. Like, it happens, guys. Fouls it's part of the game. We just have to get past it and complain a little bit less, because it's getting kind of old, I'll be honest. But it's necessary, but it's getting old.
I'm with you, man. I complain too about the officiating, but I've kind of tried to step back from it because it's just bad everywhere. It's bad everywhere. And you know what? Every team doesn't think their call their team gets the right amount of calls. So I think here in Oklahoma City, we're not different than anybody else. There's only one team that gets calls, and that's the Houston Rockets.
Yes.
Yep.
And another thing that really bothers me is how they let some players talk to officials on the court. Draymond Green can go up and just berate an official for 48 minutes and not draw a technical foul. Russell Westbrook
mumbles to himself.
Yes, and gets teed up. I mean, they're looking for it, and the fuse with Russ is much shorter than it is with anyone else when it comes to officiating. That's why he draws so many techs. And I'm not saying that he's not provocative, and that if they really were listening in, he might even maybe should get more techs sometimes. Right. but the fact of the matter is that Oklahoma City is officiated just a little bit differently than the rest of the league. They don't get the same kind of superstar calls, and I think they have a right to complain. Just don't do it as much on the court. You may just have to pay a fine.
Watching that game on Friday, the disparage in free throws, I mean, it's 8 was the difference. Just watching that game with your eyes, it seems like it shouldn't have been that way.
And you've heard our thoughts on this matter. We want you to go to @VIBELAND Sports on Twitter and be a part of this week's fan poll question of the week. Pretty simple. Should NBA players be fined for speaking out about officiating? Yes or no? A, yes, B, no. Join us on VIBELAND's @VIBELAND Sports on Twitter and be a part of the fan poll question of the week. Last week's poll was about the NFL. It was about Jason Witten leaving the broadcast booth, returning to the Dallas Cowboys. We asked, based on 2017 production, what do you expect next season as Witten returns in a Cowboy uniform? A, similar numbers. B, better numbers. C, drastic drop-off. 43% of you said about the same. Better numbers, 23% of the people thought that he would do better, and 34% a drastic drop-off. So we appreciate all of you that took time to vote on Twitter @VIBELAND Sports on last week's fan poll question of the week. Again, this one is, should NBA players be fined for speaking out about officiating? A, yes, B, no. Talking about the National Football League. Antonio Brown to the Oakland Raiders. A lot of people are saying that the Raiders fleeced the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did get fleeced in the sense that they got nowhere close to the guy's value.
Right.
Yes.
But Antonio Brown for weeks now has been torpedoing any decent deal that the Steelers could get with him because he won't keep his mouth shut. They allegedly had a deal, we don't know what it was, to the Buffalo Bills, and he nixed the deal. He's a cancer. And I think a lot of teams in the NFL, while they need wide receiver help, have just said thanks, but no thanks. We've seen the real Antonio Brown now. And I don't know what more the Steelers could have gotten from anybody else. There is one part of the equation, though, that I do agree with you, Kelby, that they got fleeced. And that's the fact that Pittsburgh has a lot of dead money now in the books that's really going to hamper them going forward to be a successful franchise.
Exactly. The Steelers have a dead money salary cap charge of over $21 million this season for Antonio Brown. Keeping him on their roster would have cost them $22.2 million of cap space. So keeping him would have cost them 22. Just to him to say, hey, get out of Pittsburgh, cost them 21 and a 7th-round pick. So, the Oakland Raiders really came away with a home run, I believe, here. I think Antonio Brown was a cancer. And, again, the Steelers are paying $21 million to get you off your roster, a superstar player. Let's think about it that way. But here's what the Steelers are really getting rid of. A guy that quit on his team the week before. That week it was win and go to the playoffs. He quit on his team. When his coach is giving a speech about it, this is us, this is between us for only people in this locker room, he is Facebook living to the world an intimate conversation as a football player talking about me.
I'd forgotten about that.
And the same guy just quit on his contract 3 years early. So if you're a Steeler fan, maybe paying that $21 million for him to leave doesn't hurt as much.
I'll tell you what it was, guys. And again, I don't think Pittsburgh had many options. I don't think there were very many suitors at all. And I don't think the people that were interested were going to give them near what his market value is, because he's buried his rear end now, and a lot of people don't want to go there. Here's the thing, though. To draw a line in the sand with their team, and I like the Rooney family. I think they're some of the best owners in professional sports at any level. But to draw that line in the sand with your players, you probably, because you're taking on that type of dead money, Casady, have prohibited yourself from being competitive, certainly this year and maybe for the next couple of years.
Yes, and look, players want to go to an organization that they know that they're going to be able to fit in with, that they're going to accept them, and they're going to treat them the right way. Now, this might have been totally on Antonio Brown, but I think there are definitely some heads butting, and
I think 75 to 80% of it's on AB.
Yes.
I think a lot of it is on Tomlin, the front office, allowing Ben Roethlisberger, who's the real problem,
Yes.
to run and dictate things.
Yes, and I think as long as Roethlisberger's on that roster, you're probably going to have trouble attracting free agents to come play there alongside him. We've seen it happen back-to-back. Le'Veon Bell and then Antonio Brown both leaving that franchise.
And
So
not just any guys leaving franchises,
Right.
just superstars and just demanding to be out. So it's an interesting. I think we're going to see the true color of the Steelers this year. Is it the franchise? Is it Ben Roethlisberger? I think we're going to find out. So another interesting point I wanted to point out about this, guys, is that the landscape that just changed, I think, in the NFL because of what Antonio Brown just did. He got out of a 3-year contract. Just said, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Got a $20 million raise to go do so. So I think players in the NFL are looking at this. Receivers in the NFL are looking at this saying, okay, here's the new statement. This is what the standard is now, what Antonio Brown just did. Are other players going to try to do this now? Are they going to say, hey, I want out. I've got 3 years left on my contract. I don't care, and go get paid somewhere else. Antonio Brown quit on a 3-year contract and just got a $20 million raise to do so. So guys that are coming up that are receivers, guys like Julio, AJ, Amari Cooper, Tyreek Hill, Michael Thomas, these are all guys whose contracts are coming up. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do, what the standard is for receivers now.
Contracts basically are nothing more than the paper they're written on. Because if a player doesn't want to abide by them, they find a way out. If the franchises don't want to be loyal to that player, they find a way to get rid of them. It's just sad. I am really, really disenchanted with the entire landscape of professional sports anymore. It's all about superstars and the heck with the team concept. I'm old, I know, but I'm not about superstars. I'm about the team. And that's the farthest thing from what professional sports.
Look at what's succeeding right now. I would say the Patriots are about the team.
You're right.
And what Tom Brady's got 6 Super Bowls. So, I mean, if you want to do it right and win and be a championship team, I think that's the way to do it. If you want to be about a me guy, you go make your headlines and get paid and never win a ring.
yeah, you're seeing the model to win Super Bowl rings on one side, and it has been very effective, and it is completely centered around the team. And that's what football is. Football is a team game. You got to have 22 guys that are playing at a high level to win. And if you have one or two that are cancerous and are bringing everybody else down, it can really wreck a franchise.
The NFL does not have to have superstars to win championships. It is a quarterback-driven league. It used to be back in the 90s where you had to have that workhorse running back. You had to have, an Earl Campbell days gone by, Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, all those guys, Terrell Davis. Those days are pretty much gone. Now, a top-notch running back is very, very important, but it's a quarterback league. That's where you need to put your money, and that's where you need to have your superstar, because if you've got a top-notch quarterback, you have a chance to be very, very good. Unlike the NBA, which has become a superstar league where you cannot compete for championships without having a minimum of 2 superstars and perhaps 3. And this is something else you and I have talked about, Casady. Baseball is a superstar league too. Not necessarily to win.
Right.
What it is to have a following, because fans in baseball, it's still the one sport professionally where it's a generational fan base. If you grew up liking the Yankees or the Cardinals or the Red Sox, you did it because your dad and your granddad and your great-great-grandfather listened to those teams on radio, not because of the superstars. People identify with the superstars, but they don't like the teams based on that particular player or players being in one city.
Yes, and you look no further than, Mike Trout, probably the best baseball player of this generation.
And you and I had this conversation the other day. Remember, we were wondering what percent would be if Mike Trout walked into your local grocery store with a hat on, nothing to say I'm Mike Trout or who I play for, how many people would recognize him?
In an Oklahoma grocery store, I would say less than 10%.
And that's sad.
Yes. And he's by far, in my opinion, the best baseball player of this generation. He's unbelievable, just next level talent. He's out there on the West Coast in LA, and nobody knows anything about him. Occasionally, you'll see a national commercial come on with him, and if it didn't say his name on there or he wasn't wearing his Angels jersey, I'm not 100% sure I could identify him. And I consider myself a big-time baseball fan. The MLB doesn't have to market their superstars because they can market their teams. I think the NFL for a long time has been that way to a point, but now these players with player movement starting to happen a lot more, and with the ability to hop on and watch NFL Sunday Ticket or Red Zone, or again with fantasy football, probably the most. Now you're more aware of the individual players and their production, and you're going to follow these players as they move across.
And I'm going to follow one other thing up there, Kelby, by saying this. It wouldn't just be Oklahoma City. It would be Kansas City. It'd probably be St. Louis.
Yeah.
It would be Dallas, Houston. There's a lot of Major League Baseball cities that the average sports fan, fringe baseball fan, would not recognize the most biggest star in the game in their grocery store.
Yeah,
this wouldn't happen.
I think the percentage would be higher in baseball cities, but again, just that was my example.
It would be higher, but I don't know
not
that
by much.
I think it would be sad.
Yeah, I think the
That's
number
how
would
low
be
it
very
would be.
sad. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Other NFL topic this week, Nick Foles headed from Philadelphia to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and boy, oh boy, did his 2-year playoff run pay off. We thought it would, either in Philadelphia or somewhere else. It's in Jacksonville, 4 years, $88 million. I ask you this question. Did they overpay, and is Nick Foles about to get exposed?
Yes, and yes, $50 million guaranteed. I mean, it's hard to succeed as a quarterback in Jacksonville. Has there ever been a quarterback there that has just had success for more than 2 or 3 seasons? I mean, I'm thinking off the top of my head. Byron Leftwich back in the day, Brunell back in the day. But, those are just – the franchise isn't that old. Blake Bortles probably took them to their highest peak they've ever been to, and it's just not going to work out there with them and Blake Bortles. So I guess they got it. He's the hottest name out there. They said that was their guy they wanted. So I don't know how much he changes that franchise, to be quite honest. But if the Nick Foles magic is real, hopefully he can bring some of that with him to Jacksonville. I don't think he does.
Yeah, and my thing is, I think the Nick Foles magic, it happens in the playoffs, and I don't know if they're going to be able to make the playoffs with Nick Foles as their starting quarterback for 16 regular season games. So it's kind of a conundrum there.
They had a great defense 2 years ago. I don't know what happened to them last year. I loved the Jalen Ramsey pickup. As a Dallas Cowboys fan, that's who I wanted over Zeke. But, looking back now, having Zeke as your offense and Jalen Ramsey seems to be a bit of a head case. We probably got away with that one. But, again, I just wanted a game-changing cornerback, and he is. that. So they could be something. They're just something to watch. Is that defense? Why were they so good 2 years ago, and why were they not so great last year? So let's see what they do this year, and if they can add some more weapons on offense.
Well, you wonder if Nick Foles didn't benefit from the offensive system in Philadelphia, and as KP just said, that very good defense that they rode to get to the Super Bowl and beat Tom Brady and the Patriots. So I ask you, did Philadelphia, in your opinion, make the right call moving away from Nick Foles, especially for 4 years, $88 million?
Again, it goes back to the system. It makes it tougher to answer. I say that Nick Foles to the Jaguars isn't a great move, but I say him leaving the Eagles isn't that great of a move either because of the system. You can't have both. But if I'm the Eagles, you invest in Carson Wentz. His future is bright. You spend an early pick on him. That's your guy. That's who you go for. He didn't lead you to the Super Bowl, but he got you guys there in the regular season, led you where you need to go. I think he's a capable quarterback. I think you go all in on Wentz. Yeah, the injury thing is scary, but as you can see, if you get another quarterback that can fit that system, I think you're going to find out that it's a great system, not so much a great quarterback. So
I wouldn't have minded them staying with Foles over Wentz, but Wentz is younger. Wentz, I think, has more upside if he can stay healthy, and certainly for the amount of money it was going to take to keep Nick Foles, I don't know that, again, for what we're discussing, whether or not he's worth that type of money. You can go out and get a very serviceable backup in the case that Carson Wentz goes down.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. And they have a guy Wentz is the guy that they have anointed as the next big Philly QB. And so for that reason, the fact that he was going to get the job regardless. He's their starter whenever he's healthy. I say for that reason they made the right choice. I would have probably gone with Foles. I think his game, especially in the postseason, you've seen what he can do under pressure. He's got the resume for it, but they really like Carson Wentz, so hopefully they don't do all that well as a Cowboys fan.
I was just going to say, as a Cowboys fan, I hope whatever my opinion is,
right.
The Eagles kept the worst quarterback.
Yes, 100%.
I hope, as a Cowboys fan, I hope they made the wrong move by letting Nick Foles go.
Speaking of the Cowboys, kudos. They were able to get Sean Lee on a little less than $4 million one-year deal to get him back. Last year was the first time at all that when Lee was out, the Cowboy defense still excelled. He's been the heart and soul. It doesn't look like, though, they're going to be able to afford to get Earl Thomas, the safety, who they were really, really in love with, who's a DFW guy. But Cowboys trying to make moves. They get Witten. I think they're going to be a force in the NFC. I still don't see them better than the Saints. I don't know that they're better than the Vikings, and I certainly don't think they're better than the Rams. And who knows, Washington just got a big defensive pickup today as well. KP, we've talked about AB. We've talked about Nick Foles. What else surprises you in free agency in the National Football League?
Today we're recording on Monday. It has just been a crazy busy day. just since we've started recording, breaking news on this podcast, it just happened 10 minutes ago. Texans safety Tyrann Mathieu signs a 3-year, $42 million deals with the Chiefs. So Honey Badger's going to KC.
And they just let Justin Houston go.
Yes, they did.
Honey Badger going to KC. Adam Humphries, the Bucks wide receiver, short white guy, number 10, signed with the Titans, 4 years, $36 million. Landon Collins, you just talked about Earl Thomas, the safety market, I think.
He went to Washington.
He went to Washington, 6 years, $84 million. If you're a safety in the NFL right now, that's kind of what Earl Thomas was wanting, but Landon Collins is, I think, 4 or 5 years younger than Earl Thomas, so he's got youth on his side. So that's an interesting contract. Again, talking about AB, maybe changing a trend. I think Landon Collins, that's pretty big money for a safety.
I'm just not convinced Washington's a great place to go.
And it's so interesting. Every time, if you leave the NFC, you're going to the NFC East, you're going to the NFC East. Washington and the Giants just trade players always. Like, if you played for the Redskins, you played for the Giants too, probably.
Yeah, and you know what? I just don't think whatever Washington adds is going to be enough to be better than Philadelphia and Dallas. I just don't. It hasn't been that way for 5-8 years.
Oh, speaking of, we haven't even talked about Washington's new quarterback, by the way, Case Keenum.
Oh, man.
So the Redskins, again, just make another trade for a quarterback where I'm just like, you are the perfect Redskins quarterback. You're another Alex Smith. You're great in the system. You're probably going to be a great NFL backup quarterback. You'd be a great backup, but you are not a starting quarterback. And come on, I would love to play you 2 times a year.
Yes. The Redskins are just, throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, and I guess this is their next project.
You know what their problem is? It's what happens when a fan has enough money to buy that team. Daniel Snyder is a fan. He's not a football guy.
So more NFL moves. The Detroit Lions just become, again, the Matt Patricia just going and grabbing old Patriots players. Old Patriots defensive end Trey Flowers to Detroit. Former Patriots receiver, but more formerly Dolphins receiver, Danny Amendola goes and signs with Detroit. Steelers tight end Jesse James ends up in Detroit. I think that's going to be a good fit for him, for you fantasy fans out there. Jamison Crowder from Washington to the Jets now. He signed with the Jets 3 years, $28.5 million, 17 guaranteed for a receiver. Deshaun Jackson gets his wish and gets out of Tampa Bay. He gets his wish and ends up back with the Eagles, so that's an interesting reunion. I don't know what he's got left in the tank, but he was always a guy that could take the top off. So, and the Eagles send a 6th-round pick in this year's draft to Tampa, and the Eagles get back Deshaun Jackson and a 7th-round pick in 2020 from Tampa. So the Eagles get DJ and a 7th-round pick for a 6th-round pick. I say that's a pretty sweet deal. And then another free agency signing, the last, I think, notable name, Eric Weddle, the safety from Baltimore, is now with the Rams, as the Rams also keep defensive end Dante Fowler on the roster. So that's a lot of movement for just not very long into this period. So I'm sure we'll have even bigger news and bigger names by the next time we record.
This past weekend was the culmination of the high school basketball season here in the state of Oklahoma, as 5 classes, 2A through 6A, crowned their boys and girls state champions. The previous week, Class A and B named their titleists. The boys' championship went to Kenta, the girls' title to Varnum. In Class A, the boys were surreal, the winners. In Class A girls, no shocker, sealing. They won their 4th straight. Over the weekend in 6A, the girls' title went to Norman. They beat in-town rival Norman North to take home the gold ball. Booker T. Washington won it in Class 6A boys. The 5A boys' championship went to Tulsa Memorial. The 5A girls' title to Piedmont. In Class 4A, Kingfishers boys stop Heritage Hall's 46-game win streak, and in doing so, get revenge for the Chargers' victory over the Yellow Jackets in the 4A finals last year. Anadarko wins the gold ball in 4A girls. In 3A, Adair's girls and Kingston's boys were crowned champions over the weekend. 2A Hal upsets top-ranked Dale's girls to win the gold ball, and Rejoice Christian wins the boys' title in Class 2A. I actually had a chance last Thursday to call a little bit of high school basketball, and I haven't done that for quite a while. And man, did I forget just how much fun that time of year really is.
Oh, yeah. You got kids that are putting everything on the line, every single play. It means everything to them at that moment in their life. It's the largest stage that they've ever played on. It's the most important game. And it's just great to see the effort and the passion that they put into every single play and every single dribble, really. It's just so much fun to watch games in the big house, too.
By the way, congratulations to the OSSAA. They get maligned about a lot of things, sometimes rightfully so, but I thought they did a terrific job. Just the 3 games I was involved in the state tournament last Thursday. The atmosphere's different. They've added more things. David Glover, who heads up basketball for the association, kind of leading those changes. And I think those guys, all led by the secretary, David Jackson, deserve a nice round of applause for the work that they're doing to continue to make that a special, special event for the fans, more importantly, the coaches and the players each weekend in March. Casady and I this past weekend, we were at the Great American Conference Championships over in Bartlesville, following the 3rd-seeded Oklahoma Baptist Bison. They went 1-1, beating East Central on Friday night, losing to Southeastern on Saturday evening. Southeastern and Southern Nazarene, incidentally, both headed to March Madness at the Division II ranks. Both will be in Maryville, Missouri this coming weekend. Both will play on Saturday. Southeastern will be the tournament's 7th seed. They will take on 2nd-seeded Northern State. That is Saturday afternoon at 2:30 in Missouri. Southern Nazarene's men, 28-5, regular and postseason champions of the Great American Conference, seeded 5th in the region, and they get a first-round matchup from last year with 4th-seeded St. Cloud State. That game is at 8:30, and Southwestern's women. How about this matchup? They were hoping to host. They fell out of the number 1 spot in the Central Region standings on Sunday. They get shipped to Hays, Kansas. Guess who they draw the first game? Emporia State, the team that handed them their loss in Game 1. Since then, the Lady Bulldogs have won 30 straight. Those two will play on Friday up in Hays, Kansas.
Haley gets her wish, huh?
She does get a wish.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
I'm betting on a Southwestern Fort Hays State final, and that will be a classic, I think, at Gross Memorial Coliseum. I know a lot of people probably don't keep up with Division II sports like certainly Casady and I do, but, man, I'm telling you, when OU and OSU have been disappointments the last couple of years, there's been some really good small school hoops played in this state, and I think they deserve all the accolades that they can get because some really good basketball here in the Sooner State. One other thing we want to talk about before we get to our interview with Alec Bohm, something coming up, Cassidy, that VIBELAND is going to be hosting, and we're excited to be a part of that as well. It's the first ever Super Bowl bowling tournament. It's going to be April the 20th at the Dust Bowl. That's located in the lower level of Fassler Hall in Midtown, Oklahoma City. The event starts from 7 to 11. There's 3 different ways you can participate. There will be live music during the event. $25 gives you access to all the food and beverage. $35 allows you to bowl with your family or friends, not part of the tournament. And for $50, $300 for a 6-person team, you can participate in that tournament. There will be prizes, cash and prizes awarded, live music, food, beverage. It's going to be a great, great time. I know you and the rest of the guys at VIBELAND very, very excited about the first annual Super Bowl bowling party.
Yes, looking forward to it a lot. If you're in the Oklahoma City area and you'd like to come participate, that's on a Saturday evening. Come on by. It's going to be a really fun time. It's going to be just everybody hanging out. You get to meet everybody who's involved in VIBELAND, and a lot of our partners will be there as well. So it's just going to be a fun time for us to kind of get to interact with the community and to also have a good time going out there and bowling. So I'm looking forward to it quite a bit.
You know, I'm excited about it. Kelby and I are going to anchor a 6-man team, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know how many people we need to get. I think this thing's already over with.
Hey, you know,
I think we've already cashed the cash and prizes. We just don't know what they are.
You get extra points for gutter balls, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I promise you, I will bring the hammer, and that hammer will land right in the gutter. I am awful at bowling.
If we have to, we can set up bumpers for you, Kelby. Don't worry.
Hey, I demand them.
Again, that's VIBELAND's first ever Super Bowl bowling tournament, 7 to 11 o'clock, April 20th at Dust Bowl below Fassler Hall in Midtown OKC. Any way that people in advance can get signed up, you just simply show up.
You can show up. We're also going to be promoting it quite a bit on social media with some other ways to get involved. So just be on the lookout. Make sure you're following at VIBELAND Inc. And everything will be posted on there. It's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. We'll be posting it all over the place.
And I bet it'll be on at VIBELAND Sports on Twitter and Instagram
it
too.
100% will.
All right, don't forget about our VIBELAND fan question poll of the week. Should the NBA players be fined for speaking out on league officiating? A, yes, B, no. Go to at VIBELAND Sports on Twitter and cast your vote. Great guest coming up next. Former Wichita State Shocker, the 3rd overall pick in last year's Major League Baseball player draft, Alec Bohm of the Philadelphia Phillies, joins us next on episode 12 of VIBELAND Sports, a media production of VIBELAND Media.
Hi, we are VIBELAND. We are a creative network fostering and cultivating growth amongst a community of artists and innovators.
Here at HQ, we inspire young entrepreneurs to pursue their ideas and fulfill their highest ambitions. From producing albums to shooting multimedia content to our involvement with various charitable organizations within our local community, we seek to empower and spread knowledge through open source innovation.
We here at VIBELAND look forward to the future and hope you will join us on this exciting journey. Create, innovate, educate. VIBELAND.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of VIBELAND Sports. Our special guest this week is former Wichita State Shocker Alec Bohm, who was taken 3rd overall in last year's player draft. Alec, thanks so much for joining us. I envy you, my friend. This time last year, you were playing in cold weather. This year, you're living it up on the beach of Florida, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's a nice change of scenery.
All right, let's start early in your career. You were an outstanding prepster in Nebraska. You led the state of Nebraska as a senior, hitting over .530, yet you didn't get any draft opportunities out of high school. Was that disappointing for you, and how many college options did you have out of high school?
Wichita State was really the only play. I mean, I committed pretty early. I had like Kansas State was there, and then Wichita State offered, and I just decided to commit. It felt like home, but I guess not getting drafted out of high school wasn't something that really disappointed me or anything. I guess I wasn't as aware of like getting drafted out of high school and the whole process and all that while I was in high school.
So you grew up in Nebraska. Did the Huskers look at you?
I never really heard from them, no.
Wow. How about football? Did you ever play football in that football crazy state?
No, I played up until high school and then hung it up.
Wichita State, you said it felt like home. What felt the best to you going to WSU?
Just the coaching staff was always just so they treated you like their own son. They loved you. They did pretty much anything they could for you. They helped you off the field, on the field, and it was just a great culture, great environment, and they just really seemed like they cared, and that kind of stood out to me.
You were pretty fortunate, Alec, because you were a first-team freshman All-American for the Shockers, and you really didn't go through a sophomore slump. In fact, really, after your sophomore season, that's when you kind of separated talent-wise and started to get a lot of looks from pro scouts, wasn't it, after a performance in the Cape Cod League?
Yeah, the Cape Cod League was a lot of fun. We had a good team, we had a good group of guys. It really I think it just made it not seem as hard as it really should have been, because we were just kind of out there laughing, having fun every day, and kind of took a little bit of the seriousness out of it, and that kind of brought out the best of our abilities.
Is that when you started to realize, hey, I have a shot to be drafted high, I have a chance to play for a long time in this sport that I love?
Yeah, kind of, because whenever you hear the Cape, you just know those are all kind of the best college guys around, guys that are looking to get drafted next year, the coming year after that. And when I went out there and had success, I knew that I was there was never really a problem with having confidence, because I could look back on that and just say, well, I've done well against some of the best talent out there. So
after you go to the Cape Cod League, you come back, you have an All-American season as a junior at Wichita State. At what point, and take us through that process, Alec, of you deciding, hey, I'm not going to come back as a senior, I want to go play professional baseball?
when you get into college, that's just kind of the norm. Like when you get to junior year, that it's just, they say it's your draft year. So when you get to that spot, 90% of the time, 80% of the time, guys are going to go, because that's when you have the most leverage, and they can't just throw $10,000 at you and say, like, you're just a senior sign, and you either take their 10,000 or you're done playing. So the junior year's a year with leverage.
Was there a lot of pressure? I mean, you're trying to be the best player you can. You're trying to win championships and have team success in Wichita, and yet you have all these scouts that are looking at you on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, I guess helping out with that was the fact that their eyes just weren't all on me. We had plenty of other guys on that team. I mean, we had 11 guys drafted, so there's plenty of other guys, and we were all kind of in it together, and we just kind of collectively, I think we did a good job of not thinking about it, not worrying, not looking up in the stands, seeing who was there, who was watching us, and all that stuff. And we just kind of went about our business, and we all really helped keep each other in line with that, and just focus on the team and playing the game.
Being selected third overall, you were the Shockers' highest draft pick since Braden Looper went to the Cardinals in the same spot in 1996. You're one of 5 top 5 picks out of the Shocker program, and the 16th overall first-round pick for Wichita State baseball. That's quite an accomplishment, is it? And is it something that you've ever stepped back, or will that happen later in life and look at what you've done as a total baseball player?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not trying to hang my hat on much of anything right now, because like, God willing, I'm far from done. But I think down the road, that's something, that's pretty good company with the guys that have come out of Wichita State and had long, successful careers.
Alec Bohm, the number 3 overall pick in last year's Major League Baseball player draft, is our guest here on episode 12 of VIBELAND Sports. Did you have a favorite team growing up? Was it the Cardinals? Was it the Royals growing up in Nebraska?
I really wasn't a Midwest baseball fan. I was a Yankee fan growing up.
What were your thoughts about the Phillies? Indifferent?
Yeah, no, I just didn't like them, didn't hate them. And there was another team I never really, that's just where I was. I liked the East Coast team, the Yankees, or Northeast team, but I never really had an opinion on them.
So you didn't know a lot about the Phillies and their history and the way the organization was run before they called your name?
No, not necessarily.
How cool was that? Did you know you were going to be picked 3rd overall, or was that a surprise when the phone rang and the Phillies had that pick and they called your name?
Yeah, I did not. I was not aware. It was a pleasant surprise.
Did you have any idea that you might go top 5, top 10? Had anybody given you any indication of where you might be?
It was talked about as a possibility. Like they could, if things go this way, then you're an option there, and luckily it worked out.
Is there pressure on you that you put on or get pressure from the organization because they've put so much into you financially and with the high draft pick?
No, they're really good about just, telling me you can go 0 for 4 today, you can go 4 for 4 today. It's at the end of the day, it's where you're here to get your work in, and it's all part of the long process of ultimately getting to the major leagues. So there's not much pressure at all put on myself.
Is there a timetable at all, an escalator on you? Because obviously they have so much invested and you were picked so highly. Do they try to rush you as much or quickly as they can up to the majors?
No, I don't think so. I think there's no rush, but there's no kind of long length of time where it needs to happen or anything. It's just kind of as I go, as I perform. I do well at this level, I go up, and do well at the next level, I go up. I kind of got the keys to the car there. So
you said you didn't know much about Philadelphia. Was there much contact between you, your agent, and the Phillies leading up to that draft? Any idea that they had any interest in you?
I think there was a little bit of conversation there, and there was we knew there was some interest, but when it came down to it, it was a very pleasant surprise to hear my name there.
By all indication, you seem to be joining the Phillies at the right time because they have a glut of money. They just recently signed Bryce Harper to a huge contract. Now they act like they want to go get Mike Trout. How exciting is it to be part of that organization with such a long-term, bright future?
Oh yeah, it's great. There's a lot of buzz around. They're very aggressive and they want to win. The fans want to win as much as the players do. They're very passionate. It's really kind of it's a great time to be in Philly. They've got a stacked lineup. They're top to bottom. They're really good, and they've got a chance to win for a long time with the guys they've got signed here a little while.
13 years with Bryce Harper. That means
Yes.
You're probably going to have a chance to play with a guy like him in the majors. How cool is that to think about?
That's something that kind of crossed my mind because we're kind of sitting there talking, and they're like, 13 years, he's going to be right over there, and he ain't going anywhere. So it's pretty cool to think about.
You appear to be, at least the Phillies hope to be, the long-term solution at third base, something they have not had in about 17 years since they traded Scott Rowland to St. Louis. Since then, they've had about 5 different players play that position. Does that give you comfort knowing that job is yours when you're ready at the big league level?
It's definitely comforting knowing Bryce Harper's not a third baseman over there. So, but yeah, I want to be the guy. So, it's when I get an opportunity, I'm going to do whatever's in my power to take full advantage of it and not look back.
Alec Bohm, the number 3 overall pick in last year's Major League Baseball draft with the Philadelphia Phillies, is our guest on VIBELAND Sports episode number 12. You're a rare hitter because you can hit for power to all fields. You also can hit for average and you very rarely strike out in terms of strikeouts to at-bats. Take us through the mentality of how much you hate to strike out and then how your mentality shifts with 2 strikes in a count.
Well, yeah, early in the count, I'm looking for what I want, and I'm trying to, drive the ball to the gaps, to the big part of the field, and, hit it to where there's 3 guys instead of 5 on the infield. And, just try to drive runs, produce runs, hit doubles, homers, get in scoring position, score runs, do whatever I can to produce some offense. And then when it gets down to 2 strikes, it just boils down to battling and competing and just really just trying not to just give them an out by swinging or not swinging and just turning around, walking back to the dugout. I really don't like just looking back, hearing strike 3 and walking back to the dugout. That does not please me at all.
I was going to ask you, how much do you despise striking out? Because believe it or not, I'm one of the few on hand that have actually seen you strike out once. And I see how much you hate that. Is that the worst thing for you in the game of baseball?
It's the longest walk ever back to the dugout after you strike out. It's definitely, and the game's kind of shifting to where, so what, you struck out, it's the same as grounding out, same as flying out, you're out. But to me, it's when you put the bat on the ball and put it in play, something can happen. So I might be different, but to each their own.
To each their own is right, and that's where I was going with this next question. A lot of guys can hit the big fly, but yet they strike out 300 times a year, and they're rewarded with big contracts. Does that bother you? Or, like you said, that's just part of today's game?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess it's just kind of approaches are different with different guys, and if that guy's going to go hit 45 home runs and strike out 100 times, that's what he's going to do. And, it's different for everybody, but, we talk about how valuable outs are and how when you got a guy like Max Scherzer on the mound, you don't want to just give him an out. If you can do something productive with that out, then that's going to go a long ways.
How much different was pitching last year in the short season and rookie ball than what it was at a good Division I program in Wichita State, or maybe even some that you saw in the summer, both in the Coastal Plains League and the Cape Cod League?
The thing with those levels is you came across a couple guys that you actually faced in college, because there's still some college guys that just got drafted, same class as I did, coming through there. And so those guys are obviously the same, but then you got some kids that are, young and they've got a real big arm. They're throwing hard, but, they don't have the command yet, and they can get wild and, go throw 7 balls in a row. Then you come up and they look like a completely different guy. So you just have to be really patient and know what you're looking for. And when you get it, don't miss it.
Most difficult pitch for you to hit, because when you read scouting reports on yourself, you love the fastball. And I mean, 100, 102 mile an hour, you don't have any problem, it doesn't seem, catching up to that pitch.
Yeah, it's just whatever I'm looking for, whatever I'm ready for. If I'm sitting on something, that's what I want to hit. So basically it just kind of comes down to whatever I don't like to hit is whatever I'm really not looking for.
Take us through this spring, because this is your first time to be in a professional club spring training. What has that been like for you? I know you have terrible weather down there in Clearwater.
That's right. It's been horrible. It's been 75 and sunny every day.
Yeah, we hate you. What's spring training been like? I mean, what do you do on a daily basis?
I mean, my daily routine here for the last week has been alarms going off at 5:10 in the morning, hop in the shower, go to the complex, eat breakfast, stretch out, get the body going. We're in the cage or in a kind of a classroom session meeting around 7:45, 8, and you go back out, do a little more stretching, conditioning, go off and do some defensive stuff individually, and then come together and get in your groups and do some team stuff, fundamental stuff, pickoffs, rundowns, cutoffs, all that sort of thing. and then get your batting practice, and then we scrimmage a little bit.
When you left college, you had to have thought that that was the last time you were going to be in a classroom setting, right? Now you find
Right.
yourself in a classroom in professional ball. What's that all about?
The games really turn into analytics and numbers and kind of science, like a little more scientific part. There's information everywhere. If you can think of it, we've got it, and it's really cool because it's every little bit of everything helps in baseball, and we've got information on literally everything, and they just help us break it down and kind of help us along and teach us, some things that we didn't know that we thought we did know.
Alec Bohm, the number 3 overall pick and last year's Major League Baseball player, draft as our guest here on VIBELAND Sports. I've been around you some, obviously not enough to know your complete personality, but you don't seem like a spiteful, vengeful guy. You just go about trying to become the best player every day that you can. But did it bother you a little bit after you were drafted that there was no question marks about your swing or how well you hit the baseball? It was all about defense. Did that bother you?
A little bit, everywhere I go, it's always, even if people don't say it, you can just kind of tell that they're like, oh, you're not very good at defense. And I carry that with me every day. I take every ground ball I take as serious as I can, and I've worked extremely hard on it. I've had a lot of coaches work extremely hard on it with me, and it's every day I just try to get a little bit better at it, and it's been coming a long way.
What has been the thing you've had to work on the most defensively? Is it your range?
It's just a combination of just kind of cleaning everything up and being relaxed and smooth with everything, and not rushing anything, not forcing myself to make an error that doesn't just is unforced. Just doesn't need to happen. Just by just dropping the ball, grabbing it out of my glove, or just decision making. Going to get a ball or dropping back, that sort of thing.
Where would you say you are now, having basically a full year of professional instruction and drills and such defensively, as compared to where you were when you left Wichita State as a junior?
I feel like I've learned a lot, even though I didn't go out and do all that great. I've learned a lot about myself, about the game, and about how the things I need to do to get ready to play, and just really learned how to, kind of get my body ready, my mind ready to play back to back to back every single day. Going out there and just like clocking into work, show up, clock in, go play 9 innings, and then relax when it's over, do the same thing the next day. And it's been fun.
Do you, and most professional athletes, baseball, football, basketball, whatever sport it may be, obviously they're there because they have self-confidence, but has that been a humbling experience for you? I mean, I don't consider you an arrogant player, but they almost strip you down, don't they, when they get you into rookie ball and short A season and expose every possible weakness, some that maybe you didn't even think you knew you had?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. And, some guys go out there, crush it, move up. Fortunately, I wasn't one of those. I went out there, struggled a little bit, got hit by a pitch, got hurt, and nothing I can control. Non-contact injury, just got hit by a ball out of my hands and missed a month and a half, went back, felt good about how I finished, had a good instructional league, and, the rest is still coming along to this day and every day. It's just my goal is try to go out there and not get lazy or take anything for granted every single day. Is just go out there and get a little bit better every day.
Fortunately, you've been blessed with good health for the most part. How frustrating was that for a month and a half, Alec, to sit on the sideline and rehab and watch your teammates get to do something you want to do every day?
Yeah, it was different to me because, my freshman year I played a lot, close to, I don't know the exact number, probably 48, 50 games. And, my sophomore year I think we played 55 games that year, played every single one. Junior year, played every single game. And now coming into here, I was going out and I was generally usually playing every day, DH every so often. And and then I got hit, and it was just weird, because I got sent back down here to the spring training complex, and I was going in and rehabbing every day instead of, I was just walk in there, sit around for a little bit, because there was really nothing I could do with my injury. It was just more of a waiting game.
Right.
And, I'd sit in there and see all the guys going out playing the game. I'm just sitting in the training room. It was definitely tough.
You said you got off to a pretty good start and loved the way you finished, but during that month and a half, mentally, how much did you feel like that set you back in your development as a professional player?
I think it was sort of a little bit of a blessing, actually, because I was kind of getting a little bit mentally drained. I was struggling. I was pressing, trying to force things, trying to do so much. I was trying to hit 5 home runs each at bat, trying to, because I had got to a point where I was like, I need to start doing good. And I was kind of putting a little bit of pressure on myself, and I got sent back down there, and I kind of just came back refreshed, a new man, and ready to finish the season strong. And it went a lot better.
You make a point that I wanted to address, because it doesn't matter what sport it is professionally. One of the biggest adjustments is just physical and mental exertion, because you play a lot of games at the collegiate level, but you're not playing every single day. How big of a challenge has that been for you?
Yeah, it's we've gotten a little taste of it in collegiate summer ball, but it's still different. It's it's something I'm still adjusting to this day. You got you play, and then you're like, dang, you look at the schedule, when's our off day, and it's not for 2 more weeks, and it's mentally, you go sit down in the locker room after a game, and you're exhausted, and you think, well, we got 8 more in a row, and then we can take a day off. But it's we still have fun with it. It's not like a job. It's not it is a job, but it's not something where we show up every day and we're moping around like, oh man, we get to play baseball for a living. So we're still having fun out there.
What do you set as a goal this season to where you want to be in your advancement towards the majors? What would you consider this summer to be a success for you?
Honestly, I've thought of it a little bit. I think I've kind of come to the conclusion that a successful summer for me would be just playing the full season. Really, no matter where I go, I just want to play 100 and 130, 140 games, and just be healthy and just be able to play the full season at 100%.
Do you set a timetable for yourself to when you want to be in the everyday lineup in Philadelphia?
That's tricky, because as soon as you try to start thinking about that and getting ahead of yourself, things can kind of go downhill quick. And so I don't try to think about that. It's more of kind of being where my feet are, and kind of going into minor league spring training every day, and I'm gonna just do what I can to make the most out of that each day.
I bet never in your wildest dreams, if I would have asked you during the conference tournament last year at Clearwater, that you would be playing in that facility and being paid to do it as a professional. That was kind of special, wasn't it?
That was cool. And I showed up here after they drafted me, and I it didn't feel, I was expecting to, go somewhere and like feel like a whole new place. And, here I am. I've already been here. It's like I kind of already knew the drill and knew what was going on.
Do you talk to the rest of your former Shocker teammates that are still playing professional baseball much?
I do, yeah. I talked to Boyer, Ritter. I talked to all of them, really, most of them.
Do you talk to any that were drafted last summer?
Yeah, I think we've been a tight group ever since I've been there. We all keep in touch pretty well.
You have to be happy for Grayson, invited to the Braves camp.
Yeah, he did well too. I was happy to see that. He was, they got him in there, and he did what he always does.
It's pretty cool to think you guys could actually be playing opposite each other about 18 times a year, being in the same division. If he gets to Atlanta and you get to Philadelphia.
Yeah, same. We'd be seeing a lot of each other.
That could be a good thing or a bad thing, right?
It could. It's gonna be different. seeing him in the box and being on the field not in a Shocker uniform in a scrimmage.
Who's been the biggest influence or influences on you growing up and even to this point in baseball?
Growing up, it was, my parents were always a big influence on me, but then when obviously you go off to college, you get away from them, the influences you have are the people you're around every day. So it was always my teammates, my coaches, all the staff through Wichita, and all the teammates and coaches and staff here.
You get nearly a $6 million signing bonus with Philadelphia. What does a guy do with that much money? What was your first big boy purchase?
A bank account.
Something you're not familiar with, right?
Right. Yeah. Put it in the bank and let it grow for you. I don't need too much to be happy. I got a place in Clearwater for spring training and all, to be here to work out at that facility because you're not getting much done in the winter in Nebraska. And, that's pretty much it.
Can we come down and tape an episode of VIBELAND Sports from your condo?
You can be glad to have you.
All right. You're the man. Alec, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations on a great career, and you've got some big fans here in Oklahoma.
I appreciate it, guys.
Alec Bohm, the number 3 overall pick of the Philadelphia Phillies in last year's Major League Baseball draft, has been our guest on VIBELAND Sports episode 12. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this. And again, a big thank you to Alec Bohm for joining us here on episode 12 of VIBELAND Sports. Tell you what, guys, I'm going to pat ourselves on the back. I'm really pleased with the lineup of guests that we've been able to acquire in just less than 3 full months on this podcast. And we certainly hope you guys are enjoying it. I don't know about you. I'm getting a lot of feedback verbally. Not only you can tell us, that's great, but you can tell us what you don't like about it and take to social media and tag us at VIBELAND Sports. Let your friends, let your family, let everybody know if you like VIBELAND Sports. We're a growing entity, and we've got a lot of good things coming up. In fact, we're on the cusp, Mr. Fletcher and Mr. KP, of getting an announcement of 2 really big guests coming up in a few weeks here on VIBELAND Sports.
Yes, and these are names that everyone will recognize. You have seen them, heard them, watched them. It's very exciting, and we're just hoping to confirm something soon so we can let the listener know. But make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're telling all your friends and family as well, so that way when some of these big names start coming through in the coming weeks and months, you won't miss it.
Coming up very soon, we're going to have our baseball preview here on VIBELAND Sports. Looking forward to that as well. KP, you got anything else?
I'm just looking forward to the NFL making some news. Guys, we've been, sports topics, there's not a lot going on right now, but the NFL, I'm excited to see what keeps coming. The NBA, as the playoff race gets closer, it's firing back up. The offseason of no sports is over just as quickly as it began.
And the NCAA tournament.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, but just that little thing, a little bit of March Madness coming up.
Yes, in the coming weeks or so, it gets ramped up to an 11 on the sports scale. You get March Madness, you get the start of baseball season, and then not long after that, you have the Masters. So it's my favorite time of the year in sports wise. You've got the NBA playoffs starting in April as well. So the next couple of months going to be so much fun.
I will tell you this, and we really shouldn't talk about things until we know that they're booked, but we're in the process of trying to do a bonus podcast, and it's much different than VIBELAND Sports. But I think it's a topic that's very, very important in Oklahoma this time of the year. We're trying to get a local meteorologist to come on and do a bonus podcast about severe weather season, which could be starting later this week, and we've already seen what's happened in the South, in Alabama and Georgia. So I know there's a lot of new people in Oklahoma City that don't know about severe weather. They're going to be very afraid this spring. Hopefully some tips that we can get from a meteorologist, and again, we're still in the process of getting that done. We can do that show here in a couple of weeks as well. So exciting things. We're just glad everybody's a part of it.
Yeah, big stuff on the way. Thanks to everyone who has been listening and letting us know what you're thinking and continuing to spread the word and interacting with us on social media. Thank you so much.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for KP. For Casady, I'm Todd Miller. This has been a presentation of VIBELAND Media. We are VIBELAND Sports.